Well, they obeyed God. They were quiet. But on the seventh time around, they started making the noise that God told them to make. In our day and age, maybe we'd sing Victory in Jesus, or The Battle Belongs to the Lord, or one of those songs as we shouted His name and did what God told us to do. And you know that the walls came tumbling down. But you know that one of the rules for that great battle was you can't take any loot. You can't pick up any of the things that are there, even though they're valuable and that type of stuff. You got to leave all the stuff there. And then they went to the little city of Ai, very small compared to Jericho. And they got whipped. And like we are wanting to do, Joshua begins to whine to God. Why have you done this? You have told us to do this and we're out there. And God says, search your own tents. Because somebody has walked in disobedience. And sure enough, a man named Achan had taken some stuff and buried it in his tents. And that was borne out. God taught them how to handle that. They handled that. And then they went back to Ai and whipped Ai. And they came to the city of Gibeon. Now Gibeon had heard what God had done in Jericho and now Ai. And though Gibeon was a bigger city than Ai and were well known for their fighting prowess, they thought it would be wiser to make peace with Joshua and the Israelites than it would be to fight them. So they made a pact. Now, anytime things are beginning to look up, there's always one of these guys that don't think things are going well. Maybe it wasn't their idea. Maybe they got up on the wrong side of the bed. But as you'll take a look in the very first verse of chapter 10, now Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had taken Ai, so forth and so on. Well, this guy, the king of Jerusalem, remember that Jerusalem doesn't belong to the Israelites yet. He decides that he's going to get 4 other kings, and you'll find them over in verse 3. There's Hoham, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, Japhia, king of Lachish, Debir, king of Eglon. He said, this isn't right. If he's got these guys in a pact, and he'll get other guys to follow that, we ought to go punish Gibeon for this. And so the 5 cities, the 5 kings, sent their armies, and they're getting ready to attack Gibeon. But now Joshua's down in Gilgal. And so Gibeon sends word and says, now look, we're partners in this thing, and because I'm your partner, these guys are attacking me. So I want you to come and help. And of course, God gives Joshua the go. He says, I want you to go. But God tells him, says, now don't worry. I'm giving these people into your hand. But you're going to have to make a forced night march to be able to get there on time. And that's where we came in with the reading. And so they made a forced night march. And when they got there, they began their attack. And it so caught them by surprise that these 5 armies began to flee. And then God did something amazing. God sent hail from heaven to take out these guys as they're running down the road. You think God told Joshua that part of the plan beforehand? I don't think so, because it didn't say that was part of the conversation. But can you imagine Joshua going into his little bride and going, well, babe, I got to go to Gibeon. Oh, what's up? And so he tells the whole story about the 5 kings and everything. He says, so I got to go, but God says we're going to win. I can hear what my little bride would have said. She'd have said, Bonnie would have said something, well, he gave you that great plan for Jericho. You're going against 5 armies. Did he give you a plan? Well, I think Joshua had to say no, but I can just imagine if God had told him about the hail. Yeah, babe, he did. Well, what's the plan? Well, we march all night and get there, and then God's going to chunk hail from heaven and take them out. Do you think that would have given him any comfort? So what's your point, Brother Jerry? The point is this. These are hard times. And during these hard times, God's going to be calling on us to make some forced marches. And God's going to encourage us and call us to go and face some obstacles that seem insurmountable. some opposition that seems overwhelming. And He's going to send us at a time when we think that we're going to be physically at our lowest, physically at our most vulnerable. And when we get there, we're going to see that God's going to show up in a powerful way, because He's already said that the battle doesn't belong to you, it belongs to me. And it certainly doesn't belong to the enemy. So it's really important for us to know that God doesn't tell us all of His plans. He doesn't always tell us all the things that He's going to do to bring about victory in our lives. He doesn't always spell it all out for us. He doesn't always do the things right on the chalkboard for us so that we know everything that's going to happen. Because even if He told us, most of the time we wouldn't get it. Honey, He's going to do what? Well, He's going to chunk ice from heaven down on these guys and take out more people than we can take out with the sword. Doesn't that sound stupid? All of God's commands sound stupid from the merely human insight. It's really important for us to understand that God's ways are not our ways. And today, as we face the difficulties of our economy, the difficulties of a lack of leadership, the difficulties of those who are trying to take down our country from within and without, as we're seeing all these things happen, it's very important that we stay alert to God, because He's not through showing up yet. But we need to be listening to Him, and we need to be ready to take whatever response He calls us to, and know that when we step up there, we're going to have more going for us than what we can see in our hand and standing around us. Get it? Amen. I forgot to tell you the rules again. Every once in a while, I'll say something that I think is so important. If you don't get anything else, at least get that. And so I'll ask, get it. If you got it, just say got it, and I'll know it's good to go on. Get it? Good. When we step out to follow God, to fight these battles, to overcome these oppositions, we will always have more on our side than we can see, and more than we can see around us. Get it? Good. It's really important that we don't forget that. But there's something else that's going on here. This battle plan just boggles my little old mind. It's amazing to me that here would be God calling this guy to do this impossible march and to come and do this battle, and knowing that God's on his side, and then God would use nature to take out the enemy in a wholly unexpected way. And then as that's taking place, these guys are, the remainder of them, the survivors of the ice flow, are taking off so fast they need more time to chase them down. And did you notice what Joshua did at that time? Please look at verse 12. On that day, the day the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Joshua said to the Lord in the presence of Israel, O sun, stand still over Gibeon, O moon, over the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still and the moon stopped till the nation avenged itself on its enemies. Did you hear what his prayer request was? Lord, they're running faster than we can keep up with them right now. And if it turns dark, they're going to disappear into the hills and the hedges. And so could you just put the universe on hold here for a while? We need to chase these guys down. We need more daylight. Wow! This guy either needs to be locked up, or he knows something that we missed out on. Can you imagine what kind of relationship Joshua had to have with God, that he would ask God to do something impossible? Scientists tell us that if the universe stood still for even a second, it would completely explode and disintegrate. Now some of you are going, yeah, but Brother Jerry, I know that's the Bible, but can we really believe that the sun stood still? Well, I don't know about you, but I do. It's in the book. Those of you that need a little more empirical proof, just Google the missing day. And you'll come to study after study where they have gone back with computers and everything else and found that, and they did this it all started way back when we first started the space endeavors. And before we got John Glenn orbiting and got on the moon and all that type of stuff, they found out that things weren't adding up as they did the time-space continuum, all that type of thing. And so they began looking, and they found out that the calendar was so far off. And then people started putting two and two together, and they started looking at Scripture, at points in Scripture, and it came up precisely to the amount of time that the sun supposedly stood still at various times during scriptural reports. Wow. Just look up the missing day on Google. It's a fun study. But to me, that's the small part of this. The big part of this to me is that how do you think to ask God for something that impossible? That's not outside of the box. That's outside of the box factory. That's outside of everything. Who comes up with an idea like that? Who has the creativity to just say, okay, what do we need to finish this battle? We need more daylight. Oh, by the way, the guy that threw the hail down, I think he can do something about this. Father, what we need is more daylight, and God gave it to him. One of the great blessings of Crossover is that I get to do training for evangelism across the state. And one of the things that we do is we teach people to prayer walk. We teach them how to be prayer warriors. We challenge them to be serious about being real prayer warriors. And as we do that, one of the things we try to teach them is that a real prayer warrior will pray as readily for the impossible as he does the possible. He prays as readily for that which is impossible